Okay, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a great review for you of a truly iconic watch from IWC, or the International Watch Company, which was founded back in 1868. They are Swiss made, and basically a little bit about them. And within their kind of historical timeline, back in 1868, a Boston watchmaker named Florentine Aristo Jones founded the International Watch Company in Schaffhausen, far from the watchmaking centers of the French-speaking Switzerland area. And his plan was to combine advanced American production technologies with skilled craftsmanship, for which Swiss watchmakers were famous. And this is actually, IWC is one of the original Flieger manufacturers, along with A. Lang & Son, Wempe, Walter Storz, which is now known as Stova, and Lasher & Company, which is now known as Laco. In terms of the type of watch, it's a pilot's watch, of course, very iconically. Some key common characteristics and design which you're looking for a pilot's watch. Of course, you're going to want that balance of legibility and functionality. This is the IWC Pilot's Watch Mark 20. And it's essentially the newest generation from the Pilot Watch, their whole line within IWC, where they revamped everything all around and just kind of listened to the people. So the lugs are shorter. The watch is equipped also with the IWC quick change system, which is great in terms of the strap changes, and the dial also has less negative space. And oh, did I mention it also has their in-house caliber with 120 hours or 5 days of power reserve, still at that nice 4 hertz smooth beat rate, which is fantastic. You can get this for 5,250 in terms of its MSRP, or right now you can get it at a really nice discount at $48.50 from Belmont Watches in San Diego. And they were kind enough to provide me with this piece so I could spend a little bit of time with it and finally share it with you guys on the channel. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, now originally my plan was to compare this watch to my Laco Flieger Pro, which is actually a really nice watch, completely spec'd up, leveled up. And I think it's probably one of the best value Flieger watches you can buy. But honestly, after spending some time with this, I have to say this. We have to stop comparing anything to this watch. It's just... this is the ultimate form. This is absolutely what a pilot's watch should be, and it is just executed to such a high level, really a true luxury level, that you really can't compare it to a watch that costs half. I will say it is a very competitive space for pilots watches under $2,000. There are some great options, and Laco, Stova, and Damasco, Zin, they offer some great watches, but none of those watches can compare to this IWC, especially now that it has the in-house movement. But I will even argue that because of the level of finishing on here, that even with an older iteration that isn't the Mark 20, man, it's hard to even put any of those watches in a similar league, just because the level of finishing just isn't there. And it's not a slight against any of them. They are building tool watches. This is more than a tool watch. This is absolutely, again, luxury level finishing. The brushing that's on here alone, let me give it a quick little wipe, is just this hairline finishing that maybe doesn't pick up well on camera, but I will say it is very similar to what you'd find on something like an Omega or a Grand Seiko or a Rolex. The level of sharpness in terms of the bevel there and the high polish, the deep luster within the polish sections, everything is just done to a luxury level, flat out. So this is something, again, it changed my mind. I was gonna be like, hey, value oriented, check this out. No, this is the daddy of pilots watches, and I have no problem saying that. It's I probably wouldn't spend within this range, at around $5,000 or under $5,000 if you want to buy it from Belmont Watches. Big shout out to them in San Diego. But with that little extra intro layer laid in, let's get into some of the details. 40 millimeters in diameter, only 10.8 millimeters thick, 49 millimeters lug to lug, stainless steel, again with high polished accents, and that beautiful hairline. Luxury level brushing is fantastic. The satin on here is just next level. Even if it didn't have the high polish, the brushing alone is just, you can't, it's just unmatched. All you can do is maybe try to find something more expensive that will outdo this. There's just nobody's doing the level of finish work that you're going to find on this watch at a cheaper cost. It just doesn't exist, at least not yet. So I'll keep an eye out though, and if there's something that I'm missing that I should take a look at, absolutely do let me know. But again, remember, there is quite a bit of heritage that comes with this because it is one of the original producers. This brand did produce these watches back during kind of the inception of them. So there's a level of heritage there that is also quite unrivaled. So unless any one of those other brands that were one of the original 5 really step up and try to build a luxury watch, of this caliber, then I think there's really no comparison, at least no true apples to apples comparison that's out there. So the crown is actually screw down, which is great in terms of water resistance. So very confident 10 bar, 100 meters of water resistance, nicely signed. And man, when I say nicely signed, it is nicely signed. Look at that. Everything is just so crisp, even at that really, really small size. And you can see just how exact and precise everything feels. You can look at the angle, the viewing angle, even on that sapphire double domed. It does have inner and outer AR coating, so it's going to really make this matte. As you can see, there's a bit of blue hue to the anti-reflective treatment, which is not uncommon, but you can see that it does do an amazing job of just basically making this crystal, pretty invisible at most angles, which I can absolutely appreciate. Now, getting into the movement, although you cannot see it, even this, even the case back, sure, it has fingerprints and stuff on it from me, but this thing, the level of sharpness that is here is just mind-blowing. And then, oh, hey, while we're down here, check this out. Press the button, and there you go. How smart is that? And you're still using traditional spring bars, so you can run a NATO strap or something like that through there if you really wanted to. But of course, this thing is on a very nice traditional stepped tapering pilot strap, which again, just this is purely distilled and purified air here that the IWC is breathing in, and it's really impressive. Matte black dial, printed indices. It does have that nice stepped date aperture at the 3 o'clock. Also, you're getting polished rhodium plated hands. Again, truly within that kind of luxury spec. And then it does have Superluminova on there. I will say that is one place that's measurable, that some of the other options that are out there will have better lume than this, but they are by no means a finer timepiece. I'd say that's the only measurable space where you can say, okay, apart from price, right, you can get cheaper watches that do have a very similar effect, but again, just none of them are finished to this level. So you're getting 20 millimeter lugs, you're getting this nice black leather strap with, of course, that IWC quick change system. It has a nice little taper from 20 millimeters down to 18 at this beautifully finished sign buckle. Check that out. Holy smokes. I've seen a lot of renditions of this buckle, a lot of strap brands kind of trying, let me give it a quick little wipe here, extra wipe, trying to kind of recreate this buckle, and they do some nice jobs, but man, look at the luster of the polished sections. Look at how fine the brushing is. You're not gonna get that anywhere else. Look at, it's just, even look at the hardware. Look at how tight that fits. That is amazingly tight tolerances, and the level of that satin is just out of this world, guys. So with that said, let's actually get it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, this wears really fantastic, nice and thin. Just look at the contours, nice turned down lugs, of course shortened from previous iterations, and this thing looks gorgeous. Of course, if I get it a little bit too close to the camera, you're gonna get some lens distortion, so what I'll do is I'll keep it nice and low and just tighten the shot up so you can get a better look at the details while still getting a pretty true to eye aspect ratio in terms of the size here. And yeah, 40 millimeters for a pilot's watch for me is a nice little sweet spot, because it is larger, on the larger side for a watch that doesn't have a dive bezel on it, but at the same time it's a pilot's watch, so it needs to be bold and legible, so I don't mind that at all. This is, again, makes it just step into that everyday category versus some of the truer to kind of historical sizing, you know, when you get into the big pilot range, or just any larger pilot's watch, you know, they can be a little bit overwhelming and they can be a little bit too theme based. They feel like, you know, almost a piece of a costume, and which isn't bad, you know, if you are actually a pilot, that's fantastic and cool, and you know, it can be the favorite part of your uniform. But for those of us that just have aspirations and dreams, it's nice to have something that's really wearable and just, you know, ultimately capable, fantastically finished from a very, very respectable brand with a very respectable in-house manufacturer movement. So very, very cool. So let's go ahead, get this off the wrist, set up for some Lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, the Lume that is applied is actually really well done. There's just not much of it, which I think can be a little bit of a letdown. But, you know, in terms of its theme, again, this isn't a dive watch. This isn't a field watch. This is a pilot's watch. So Lume isn't the hugest, you know, sticking point. It is still quite legible, of course. You can get that cardinal orientation there. You know, where the 12 o'clock is at all times, so it absolutely does work. But one thing I like to work in, of course, is some low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to be coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just maybe hanging out underneath the shade of a tree or your favorite automobile. So it's nice to see what these colors, finishes, and textures render like in less than optimal lighting, to even maybe include some harsh lighting, high contrast here that could typically expose any types of you know, defects within the finish. You can see here just impeccable dial execution, handset. The brushing is just so uniform as the light glides over it, and again, even with fingerprints on there, there's a beautiful next level luster on that high polished finishing. So it's just, yeah, it's next level. Again, I went into this planning to compare it, but it's just not comparable. It's just flat out. There's no comparing. And not everybody needs a luxury pilot. Not everybody needs the ultimate form. Just like not everybody needs a Porsche as the ultimate sports car, but those who do, there's no substitution. So that's in short. But in terms of, you know, general closing thoughts on the wrist, really the perfect size and proportions, of course, with that elevated luxury level finishing. Everything is just so crisp and exact feeling, and it just feels precise. And that's where it really gets into kind of the ultimate tool watch kind of vibe, just because of how precise everything is, but also, again, finished to such a level that it's just beyond what you need in terms of functionality, and it does absolutely step into the realm of luxury finishing. So in terms of model variations, it's also available in a blue or green sunray dial with strap or bracelet options, so you can check those out. But of course, if you're looking for this particular model and the great deal, definitely check out Belmont watches. They should have this listed, and I should have this back in their hands, hopefully not too far from now of filming this video. So in terms of comparable models, again, in terms of model iterations of the classic Flieger pilot's watch, you know, IWC has been and continues to be the pinnacle form of these traditional tool watches. They are absolutely setting the benchmark, and they have yet to be surpassed. So for me, guys, the bottom line, this is as close to perfection as you can achieve in the pilot watch space. You know, IWC is to what pilot watches as Porsche is to sports cars. Regardless of how competitive the market gets, these perennial benchmarks will always set the bar for others to fall just short of. Yes, this can be outspec'd and undercut by other comparable options, but its purity of design, execution, heritage, and beyond are really likely to remain unmatched in overall balance and refinement. You're just not gonna find it. And when that does happen, wow, it's gonna be earth-shattering, just because all right now, the only people who are going to make a better watch than this are IWC when they do a future iteration, and they have the capabilities and I guess the motivation even to continue just improving on this amazing archetype of watch. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.